This is the Extra 10% podcast, helping you get paid tomorrow for what you do today. Invite John Holowaty and Mark Hudson to join you at the breakfast table, ride with you to work, or just randomly stumble across them in the afternoon. Let's get the extra 10% out of your day.
John, you're back in the UK, lad.
Back in the UK, look at the fucking weather. It is grim. It is grey and green.
I mean, I don't really see the weather. I can't remember. I was going to say, like, oh, yeah, you've missed some good weather actually recently. But then I started to think, as I said that, I haven't got a clue. I don't actually.
You have to distract yourself. I mean, I do this in Tenerife. I close the curtains when I'm working because I don't want to see the sunshine. Yeah. Because it can distract you. The weather can distract you. So this is great business building weather in the UK. I think that's why there are a lot of top entrepreneurs that just get shit done. Whereas I can see when I'm in the Canaries, there are a lot of people.
I don't have to cry about it. You sound like you're going to cry. I'm in the Canaries.
No, I see a lot of people that live way below their potential, but they're happy. So it's like they've got the sun, they have a few brewskis.
Is that natives, or is that? Do you mean
I think
people?
It's just people that have moved there. There's so many different like expats. Like there's people from South America. There's people that were born and raised there. There's a lot of Germans, a lot of English people, a lot of Italians as well. I think that because parts of Italy can have the similar weather to the UK. So
yeah, in the north for sure.
It's just an easy way of life to kind of just be. I mean, it's weird. I'm reading this book about Buddhism at the minute, but I was listening to Jim Rohn the other day. Where he put a little tip. We've mentioned Jim Rohn already. So
it's not a John and Mark podcast without. It's actually the John, Mark, and Jim podcast.
Yeah. So the extra Jim percent. So I think he talks about something on this clip that I listened to the other day, and he says, human beings are the only organism on the planet that don't grow as high as they can.
Right,
so
like the potential.
Grow as tall as it can.
Yeah,
how big does a goldfish get? As big as it can get, right? Yeah. So human beings have the choice to go, can't be asked, not bothered. It's not that important to me. And I think this is what I've noticed a lot in the Canaries is or any hot country really, where it's easy to, a lot of people are just craving sunshine and a good life. And that good life is like a few beers, out with the friends, that kind of thing. So I definitely see it as a devil tool to allow.
Yeah. It's a distraction. We say it all the time. All distractions are equal. So if there's anything that distracts you, for some people it could be the weather. For some people, it could be, and like literally could be anything. But if you are like, because I see like two sides to what you're saying is, like we've said 1,000 times, look, everybody's success, whatever they deem that to be, is different. Some people's success is a billionaire. Some people's success is, I want to, provide for my family, earn 30 grand a year, enjoy the job I do. Other people's success is, I want 10 grand a year and I want to travel around the world on my own, living in like places where, like say Thailand or somewhere where that 10 grand stretches a lot further. A bit like the taxi driver you mentioned about.
Yeah.
But I also think, so there are those people, right? I also think there are people who use that as an excuse. So what I mean is there'll be people in the UK or anywhere really that have convinced themselves that what the level they're at like right now is actually what they want. And because they've given up on their actual dreams and actually changed what their dreams are to this lower level. And I think I remember watching like a Wolf of Wall Street thing, the guy Jordan Belfort like do a training, and he was just saying like that everybody has like a thermostat in them, and like depending on what your standards are is when that thermostat kicks in or not. So most successful people, their thermostat's pretty high, meaning that like if they're not going to earn 100 grand, let's say in a year, their thermostat kicks in so that last quarter in the year, they absolutely nail it so that they make sure they clip that 100K in sales or whatever it is that their thing is, right? Equally, they will have standards at home, right? So they some people clean their house once a week. Some people clean their house once a day. Some people clean their house once a year, right? And it's like, depending on where your thermostat kicks in. Well, what I'm saying is that like people have standards, right? But what he talks about in one of his trainings is your goal is not to lower your standards so that you're always, so like, for example, if you start off in life and you clean your house once a day, it's not then to get lazy and go, oh, that's not really achievable. I can only achieve it once a week. And then you do it once a week for a bit. And you think, oh, that's not achievable. I'll do it once a month and stuff like that. Similar with income. It's like you set out and you go, yeah, I'm going to earn $1 million a year. And then you do it for a couple of years and you don't quite get to that million. You go, all right, no problem, $500,000 a year. And then that becomes your goal. And you do that for a couple of years. You don't quite get $500,000 either. You go, okay, 100 grand a year is what I want. And then it keeps going on cycle by cycle. And then by the time you get to your 40s, you're earning 30 grand a year. And like your standards are so much lower than what they started out when you were 20 years old, let's say. And it's not because it wasn't achievable. It's because you gave up on that goal and then you convinced yourselves that the smaller goal was actually what you wanted. So you lie to yourself basically. And so I hear it all the time. Like, you know, I don't know about you actually, and this is a topic I'd love to have a conversation with, right? So I don't really socialize too much. Like I don't go out quite often. Like I'm really sort of into my work at the moment, but there are sort of two types of people that I socialize. One is people like yourself, right? And obviously the other people that we kind of hang out together. And when I'm having conversations with you, similar to on these podcasts, I don't feel like I ever have to explain this idea of wanting to sell a company for 100 million. It's just like, yeah, makes sense. You know, go to work basically is kind of what you're thinking in your head. Whereas there are people that I also spend time around with, and I'm a really ambitious person, I would say, like probably slightly above average when it comes to ambition. And I don't know what your thoughts are on this, but like, I almost feel a bit awkward explaining to some people like what it is I'm trying to achieve and why I'm doing it and things like that. So like, I don't know if you've ever felt like that. Like you've been in an environment where you want to tell somebody, like when they genuinely ask you, oh, what have you been working on? And then you want to explain it, but you know that the inevitable is they're going to go, oh, right. So what is that? And they're going to like ask a subsequent question, which is going to lead on to the fact that you're going to have to tell them that you are doing stuff that's not normal. And then, you know, the conversation is then going to go down the route of, yeah, am I going to say something that's almost going to embarrass them? Because I'm going to talk about how I'm absolutely nailing my life to the best of my ability. And they're sat at home scratching their ass. And so like, you know that that's happening. It's maybe 3 or 4 questions away, but you almost, I mean, I find myself, and I don't know if you like, I kind of nip it in the bud right at the beginning. So when they ask a question, subject. Yeah, like, so I don't know, what are your thoughts on that?
No, 100%, as that's happened to me loads of times. I mean, just to go back on your other question, I think I just wanted to add one thing. It was almost like settling for less. People just, once they settle for less once, it kind of you settle for less again and settle for less. And it works the same way in terms of ambition. Once you tick something off your vision board, you're like, tick, right, I'm going to go for the next model up. I'm going to go for this, you know, whether it's a car or whether it's a house or whether it's whatever. So I just wanted to kind of add on to that positive growth of achieving goals can also work in a negative way if you start downgrading your goals, if you start settling for less. So that's what I just wanted to add to that before. Yeah, that thing that you just said now is, has happened to me many times, even to a point of like not wanting to wear my watch to certain things, because I know people might say, and it's not like a £100,000 watch. It's I've got a couple of nice watches. That's it. But I'm not a watch connoisseur by any means or anything like that. But not wanting to wear it sometimes, because then it comes, oh, nice watch. Is that real? Right? That's the first. So that's almost an insult in itself. Right?
They can't believe that you would have that watch.
Yeah. So then you've got to then go, and then it leads to like, how much is that? You know, that people always want to know, how much is that? And then you've got to then say, and then that can lead to a negative of like, what? You fucking spent that on a watch? That's ridiculous. Or, oh, you must be doing well for yourself. You must be making too much money. You know, I've had that before in the past. I think the negative, we've got to just be, it's a little bit like stop being a little bitch and own your success.
Yeah, that was, yeah.
But it's hard to get there when it first starts happening, because when I started, I remember having a conversation with somebody about buying, I've got a camper van now, and which I'm hopefully picking up this week. But I remember having a conversation with somebody.
I love the fact that you're going to be doing like grocery shopping in a camper van. That's just gags.
So, yeah, let's see. We'll see what happens. It's supposed to be ready this week, but you never know. But what happened was I was having a conversation with somebody saying, I really want a camper van. It would be cool just to be able to get in it and just drive around the UK, get on a ferry, go over to Ireland, do whatever. It's like this freedom thing. I'm going to get Wi-Fi put in it so I can do podcasts, do the calls, do all the stuff that we do. And I went, the cool thing about it's only 20 grand. And the person went, only 20 grand? Like, catch yourself on, or something like that. It wasn't Scottish, but it's a Scottish phrase. Catch yourself on, wee laddie. But it was like, what, 20? Like, and I just flippantly said it like it was like going into the supermarket, picking up a packet of potatoes. And he was like,
a packet of potatoes. No one's ever described it as a packet of potatoes. It's a bag of potatoes, maybe a packet of crisps, which are potatoes. Is that what you call crisps? You go and go, oh, what did you get on your meal deal? I had a sandwich, I had a drink, and I had a packet of potatoes.
We've got to urge, right? That's the dare of the podcast. We've got to urge anyone who's listening to this now. The next time you fancy a packet of crisps and you go into a shop, you cannot say, where are your crisps kept? You've got to say, where are your packet of potatoes kept?
And then if they take you to the potato, I go, no, the small ones, like the cut up ones that are a bit dry.
I want a finely sliced packet of potatoes.
Yeah, good. So yeah, I get what you're saying is that your standards are so high, or not, because we appreciate there's plenty of people with standards higher than ours, like, of course, but it's like your standards are so high that the idea of spending 20,000 on something that you're going to enjoy is nothing to you. It's like, yeah, well, why wouldn't I do that? Whereas that person's like, in their brain, it's like, well, if I wanted to spend 20 grand, that would mean I'd have to save up for like 5-10 years to be able to do that. And it's like, so they almost can't fathom that far in advance. Like,
can't fathom it. And it's like that. When you become who you hang around with the most, you stop thinking subliminally. You stop thinking small. Like years ago, like 10 years ago or whatever, I'd have been, God, it'll take me ages to save up 20 grand. Now I'm like, no way, I can do that. Like, it's not even a question. It's just like done. Now, I'm sure there'll be other groups of people, and maybe someone would have had the conversation. Yeah, I'm going to buy a private jet next month. It's only 6 million. And I wouldn't have gone only 6 million. I'd have gone, wow, that's mint. Because my mindset's the same, but it's all relative. But when your mindset isn't aligned, people don't get it. So then it's like, I've had the conversation about income, even a conversation, I think I've brought this up before, like when I was chatting with my mum, and she was talking about someone that she knows, and she was like, oh, she's doing really well. You know, she's doing amazing. She's earning 50 grand a year now. And in my head, I heard 50 grand a month. And I was like, wow, fair play. That's amazing. And then I knew what job she did. And I went, what? You can earn 50 grand a month? Oh, 50 grand a year. 50 grand a year. And not that 50 grand a year is amazing as well. It's not that it's not. It's just that my mindset has kind of gone so far ahead of it's almost like what's possible. But certain jobs, I've just mentioned this on a live that I did this morning, like in our world, there are no ceilings. In our world, it's the harder you work, the more you can generate. The harder you work, the more lives you can impact. The harder you work, the bigger whereas when you've got the employee's mindset, whether you work,
there's caps.
It's capped, and it's not their fault. It's not capped in terms of, and there's some employees, like I've got great friends that earn amazing money, and they're employees. So it's what industry you're in as well, right? But if you're in a specific industry where it's like 30 grand a year, 25 grand a year, 50 grand a year, it's very, very hard to break out of that unless you go down the entrepreneurial route. There's an amazing video, a tutorial where a guy breaks down the 4 reasons. It's something like 4 reasons why people can command the income that they command. And a lot of it is down to, right, how many lives are you impacting? So it's the service to many, greatness. Or you've got to be so niche in your market, so specialized, that hardly anyone can do what you're doing. So why does a GP, a general practitioner, as a doctor, only really earn like 60, 70 grand a year? Because there's so many of them. There's so many people that can become general GPs.
Yeah, the barrier to entry is lower than like a specialist surgeon or something.
So, but their skill level is much higher than mine. They've read a lot more books. But I generate more income from that simply because I help more people. I can serve miles more people. So a GP with all those qualifications could increase his income, but he would have to create an online business, which would be, you know, a little bit like Dr. Berg has on YouTube. He's a great guy to follow on health and nutrition, all that.
But then you're going down the entrepreneurial route anyway then. So you're
exactly, yeah. But it's like, how can you turn that? How can you turn your skill into service to many, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Or you go, well, I don't want to serve many, but I want to become one of the only doctors in the world that can perform this type of surgery. So when anyone ever comes to me, it's like, and this is why plastic surgery years ago used to be so expensive. And now, like, you know, you can get stuff done really, really cheap because all these doctors are going down the route of, I'm going to become a plastic surgeon. So that brings the price down of everything.
Yeah, there's more competition and stuff. And it's like, and there'll be people listening to this now sort of going down the route you said, which is like, well, the industry I'm in, you can't earn more than 50K or whatever, or like, you know, whatever. And it's like, well, are you in the right industry then? Like, should you be looking elsewhere? If you're driven by money and your industry doesn't, you know, facilitate the accumulation of money, let's say, or it's capped, maybe you're in the wrong industry for you. And then people are like, well, no, but I really like what I'm doing. Well, then you're probably not motivated by money. So you are in the right industry if it's one that doesn't. Yeah. So it's like this, going back to the thing that people lie to themselves, is they want these, like, maybe it is income, you know, because here's the other thing as well, when we're talking about like standards, is if you go for a run with Usain Bolt or Ronaldo or someone who's like rapid, the conversations you're having about how quick you can do the 100 meters is a different conversation to like what you had at high school, you know, like, you know, the amount of seconds it takes. So it's like, again, you mentioned about like the people you associate with, they're going to, so my original thing was like, when you're having conversations with people that don't quite get it, maybe the answer is, well, not you completely spend no time with people that don't get it, but you just spend less time with people that don't get it. So it's like,
you have different conversations, because what I tend to do in situations like that, and you said it there, is you know what's coming, you know where the conversation is going. And it's like, how do you get out of this conversation? Because sometimes, like, having mates that have no like similar interest in terms of entrepreneurialism is actually good for you, to give you a break in terms of, well, I don't want to be talking. I don't want to bring the office to this dinner party tonight. I don't want to bring, like, I mean, the office in your mind. So unless you can turn it onto what they want, and then you almost kind of start life coaching people, because I think with people like us,
tricky thing as well, like that, that is what
then they don't get it either. Then it can go down a rabbit hole of like, no, but and then you try and you're almost trying to force your opinion on them.
Right. And like when you and I watch a Jim Rohn video, the reason I really like Jim Rohn more so than, like, let's say Tony Robbins, is because the way that Tony Robbins obviously gets you to take action is very much like out of inspiration of this, like, you know, or even desperation, actually, because a lot of the time he does take you to that breaking point to do it. But that's not the thing that really motivates me as much as, I still get motivated by that, but not as much as where the Jim Rohn approach, which is kind of like, have you really been this stupid for that long? And then you're like, yeah, I have. And then that motivates me to
the thought pro. It's more about the thinking philosophy.
And it's like, but if we go to one of those videos, we know what to expect. We know that that's the way the video is going to be phrased. And therefore we're going to be like, yeah, I have been a bit of an idiot. Whereas if you're at like a house party or a gathering and you're having those conversations, if you do the same thing with someone who was not expecting to come to that house party to, you know, find out that their life's fucking shit, like obviously that's an extreme thing, but like you get the point. As in, if you start pointing out what they do is a bit stupid, and they themselves are like, yeah, this is what I do is a bit stupid, that's going to depress them almost. And it's like, that's not what I wanted on my Saturday night. And
I guess you've got to give them a way out. I mean,
yeah,
I've had conversations recently with people that have been stuck doing the same thing for a long, long time, and they want to make some changes. So I've ended up during the conversation, because I know what I know from myself, I've been like, the reason you've been stuck and unfulfilled is because you've been like a caged bird. You've not seen a way out. So you've just flown within that circle. You haven't got out of there. Now you've seen an opportunity. You've seen a way out of what you're doing. Something started to excite you again, as that you've got your zest for life back. So I think we know we can always have those conversations. It's just that sometimes, can you be asked when you go to a dinner party or a gathering and you end up chatting to somebody like, how's things with you? And things are going so well. Especially with this coronavirus, it's like, you almost don't want to say,
yeah, just in case
they're lying, because in case they're. So I think, so go back to your question. It comes back to the fact that you're a good person at the beginning, because you don't want to be boasting, because there's people that we know that would be like, yeah, I'm killing it, everything's amazing, you're doing shit, but I'm doing min, right? And you don't want that. You don't want to be that guy. So I think it's good to have that awareness around, no one likes someone that shows off, but also you shouldn't be ashamed of your accomplishments. You shouldn't be ashamed of, I know like my mentor, Alex, when he bought his Aston Martin, he said, I feel a bit embarrassed. He said, like, people aren't used to seeing me drive this. He said it was a massive thing for him, but he was like, I've worked so hard for this. I deserve it. And most importantly, I love driving it. I enjoy it when I'm in it. So why should I be concerned about what other people think of me? It's almost like the ego is the enemy in some parts in that way. And then the ego can be the enemy in terms of what will people think of me? That's still ego, right? It's still, it's not ego in terms of I'm here showing off and I'm the best. It's ego in terms of I still care what people think of me. So almost you've got to have that. Well, I don't really care what you think about me, as long as I know that I'm being true to myself and my intentions are true with what I'm sharing. Then you should be at peace with it, because if they're uncomfortable with you sharing your success, you sharing your goals, you sharing your visions, and that makes them feel bad, then that's their problem.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what you said right at the beginning, which is that, like, you've just got to own it. If you know your intentions are good, like you just said then, if you are a good person, you genuinely, because here's the thing, if I ever get speaking to somebody and I know that the conversation is going down that path of them essentially highlighting that what they're doing isn't the right thing for them, I want to help them out. I want them to have some form of epiphany in that conversation where they go away the next day and they make a change. Now, obviously not everyone does that, even if they do sound really excitable on the thing. But it's kind of like, yeah, like you say, is just own it. If you think that you genuinely can help people out, go for it, I suppose. Like, say it. But you don't have to go looking for it. That's what I guess I'm saying, is that I don't go looking now. When I first discovered personal development or whatever, like 6-7 years ago, is something, it's like, I would be like wanting to tell everybody. So I would be almost forcing it upon them, right? Because I was just like, everyone needs to know this, like that you can design your life, you can set goals, you can go after it. You don't have to settle for the norm and go with the flow and all that. So I'd be going to house parties almost like looking for somebody to yeah, you want to get on this? Have you read this book? Oh, you should read it, change my life, blah, blah. Whereas now it's like, I wouldn't do that. But if someone does kind of, like I say, it always happens because people, it's like, talking about routines, right? And habits. People's habit at a house party is to go, oh, how are you getting on? They don't give a shit. Like, they just say it because it's a habit. You just have to ask a person. All right, maybe 1 in 10 people do actually care if it's your mum or your grandma or something, I don't know. But like, most people do not care. They just say it because it's like they need to fill the air with noise. And it's like, so you just have to, well, for me personally, I always have to be wary about how I answer it. Just so that if I do or don't want to go down a rabbit hole with somebody, because a lot of people have, like you said, can be highly offended by which is bizarre to me, but it's highly offended by the idea that they could have bettered themselves and they haven't. Like, they're offended by that, I suppose. But I don't know, and kind of tying it back into what I said right at the beginning, or what we were talking about right at the beginning, which is having these like standards and like letting them drop, is that sort of ties into, let's say you do set a goal and it doesn't quite go the way you wanted it. Maybe something, punches you in the face or whatever, and whatever. It's like, have you got the ability to keep going even when it doesn't perfectly and smoothly go, if that makes sense? So it's like, just like if you set off on a journey, I use this analogy all the time, is if you want to get to Edinburgh and you booked a hotel and all that, and you set off from London, let's say, and one of the roads is closed, you don't just decide to turn around and go home. You just take the detour. You know what I mean? You just go, it might take a bit longer, it might be a bit bumpier, but you still want to get to Edinburgh. And it's like, I guess, do people lower their standards so instead of saying, oh, let's not go to Edinburgh then, let's just go to Manchester because it's less far, and it's like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, sometimes you're going to have to do that for the time being. I mean, I like using that analogy, that first of all, the phrase that I love based around this is, if you're going through hell, keep going. That's Winston Churchill's quote. I love that quote. If you're going through hell, keep going.
Yeah, because nobody wants to sit there. Nobody wants to stay in hell.
Yeah, no one wants to stay in hell, right? If you're going through hell, keep going. Just keep going. Eventually you'll come out. So, nothing lasts forever. So, and it's the same with great times as well. Like, I'm listening to a lot of stuff on the human brain. It's all come from evolution, because these dopamine responses and these happy hormones come at the end of accomplishing a task. When you go back to human beings and their original evolution, we had to get a dopamine release to accomplish a task, which would mean we would then go and get more food. Right. So that's why when you hit a goal, you get this sense of elation for a little while, and then the elation wears off and you're like, oh, what next? Right, I need to go and find another goal. So that's why you've always got these people that are always continually striving for more. I think, to answer your question, when you don't hit a goal, you've got you've got reflection. You've got to look back and go, right, what could I have done better? If the answer's nothing, then maybe it wasn't meant to be. Sometimes not getting what you want is actually the best thing that could have happened for you. And
you've got to be careful with that though, right? Because you don't want to spin it as an excuse. So you don't want to be like, did I really want that? Is that the reason why?
Yeah, you've got to be truthful for it. But I think you can only line that. Like, there's been times where I've gone for things and I've not hit it, or the car that I wanted. I remember going for when I wanted to buy this Range Rover, and the one that I wanted, I didn't end up getting. And then a few weeks later, the one that was better came available and at a better price. So it was like, at the time I was devastated, like, not devastated, but I was gutted. Right. And then the next time, so I've learned this now, like looking at villas and stuff like that, like I'm not in the position to get what I want yet. And you know what estate agents are like? They're like, oh, we've just had a phone call, someone's interested. Yeah. So then they try and put the pressure on you. But because I've been through this before, I'm totally at peace with it now. And I walked around this villa and I was like, yeah, I love it, but I'm not in a position at the minute to make an offer. So if it goes, it goes. I know that the right one will find me. Simple as that. So I think you learn from this with experience. But when you don't achieve the goal, you have to just, if you want something badly enough, you'll keep going for it. You'll keep going for it. You'll keep being pleasantly persistent. But you have to enjoy what you've achieved so far. So almost by going for the goal and not hitting it, you're still further ahead than you would have. It's like if your goal is to climb the peak of Mount Everest, and then you're on your way up there, and then there's an avalanche strike, and they say, look guys, we can't go any further. We're going to have to descend and go back down. So you come back and you go, well, I didn't make it to the summit of Everest, but I made it to like base camp 4. And then we had to turn around. So you still got to base camp 4. So you've got to enjoy the fact that you're there. That doesn't mean that you can't go back the following year and try and hit the summit again. So even if you haven't hit your goal that you wanted to hit for this month, or you didn't hit the promotion that you wanted, doesn't mean that you can't do it next month. Doesn't mean that you can't do it within the next 90 days. Doesn't mean that you can't do it within the next year. The only way that you will not achieve it is if you slow down. So, we wanted to go to Edinburgh, but we can't get there. We're going to have a night in Manchester. So you go, right, we're in Manchester. It's not Edinburgh, but we can still have a great time here. We can still be super grateful that we're here. Maybe we can go to Edinburgh tomorrow, or maybe we can't. Maybe we have to go back, and then we'll plan going to Edinburgh next year. But what we do is we make sure we have a frigging great time. I remember flying to Turkey with the family, and we got stuck at the airport all day. And you've got people that are like complaining, I can't believe we delayed. This is a joke, blah, blah, blah. And we were just like, well, we're here. Our first day of our holiday starts today. Let's enjoy it. We went and had a few beers, and we just waited. And every hour we'd go and check the screen, and the plane had been put further delay. Another hour had been added on, and so on and so forth. And then ultimately they said, you're going to be picked up and taken to a hotel in Manchester. It's funny that you use that analogy about Edinburgh and Manchester. We weren't flying to Edinburgh, we were flying to Turkey. But it was like, well, you're going to have a night in Manchester now. And I remember looking at my friend going like, right, well, what do? We just have a night out. And we were both on the same wavelength. Like, when you're two positive thinkers together, like, let's just make the most of it, no matter what, make the most of it. Let's just have a night out in Manchester. It's the first, what would we be doing if we were on holiday? We'd be going out, having a few beers. Let's do the same thing where we are. All right, we're not where we thought we were going to be, but we are here. So let's go and have a good time. So I think you've just got to, when you don't hit the goal, and there's been loads of goals that I've gone for over the last few years that I've not hit, but I'm like, well, things are pretty frigging cool anyway where they are right now. So, and I've not given up on those goals. I know I'm further towards them than I was before. You just got to keep going. And what does that goal mean to you? Is it just a number that you've placed on something? Or are you actually closer to what the number would bring you? Does that,
right.
If that makes
sense? 100%. So it's like, if you set a goal of £1 million, let's say, but really what you're more excited about is the person you become achieving that million. If you achieve 500,000, but you are the person that you thought you would be at 1 million, then you've achieved it. And I guess as well, maybe there's just this difference between a vision and a goal. So like, using the analogy of Turkey, is maybe the getting to Turkey was the vision. That was the ultimate thing, right? Was to get there. But the goals along the way were like, right, well, we're going to get on the plane at 10 a.m. We're going to be in the bar in Turkey by this time, blah, blah, whatever. And it's like, well, all right, we haven't hit the goal of getting on the plane at 10 a.m. But it doesn't matter, because the vision of getting to Turkey is still there. We're just going to come back tomorrow and get to Turkey. So maybe that's a key insight here, is that there are differences between visions and goals. And like, you have to be almost solid in what your vision is. And then the goals that allow you to achieve that vision, you can be flexible and fluid with, if that makes sense. You can.
Yeah, no, 100%. Your vision is, your vision has to be flexible, because, your vision is there for, and it might change. You know, you might be visualizing a white kitchen, but you end up with a beige kitchen, but ultimately you've ended up with a brand new kitchen in the house that you wanted. Like, so you've got to have that degree of flexibility. But I think the biggest thing you've hit on there is like that element of the vision of, you're still going to get what you want. And just because you didn't earn, let's say, 100K that month or that year, you've still been able to buy the house that you wanted anyway. So you didn't hit the goal, but the vision, which was still a goal, you've still ended up getting to be able to do the things that you wanted to do.
Yeah, because like you said with the car, it could be that the price of the thing comes down, and therefore you don't need the money that you originally like set out and stuff like that. So yeah, it's interesting. We've covered quite a few things there on today's kind of podcast, but it's like one of the things I was just interested to get your take on what was that idea of when you're at house parties or equivalents, gatherings with people, is like, have you had that where you want to almost talk ambitiously and excited and like, yeah, the world's a great place and things are all going right. And because it comes back to like extreme ownership as well, which is a book I haven't read actually, but I'm just using that terminology, is that like, if you want to achieve something, you will own the successes and the failures. So like if you say, right, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and then it doesn't quite work out, you go, all right, well, it wasn't because of the bad weather or the petrol prices or the government or whatever. It's because, do you know what? Maybe I didn't learn a skill I needed, or I did miss a little opportunity there that I could have, or whatever, right? You'll know that deep down. But it's like about owning that. But I feel like a lot of people don't strive for things quite often because they don't want to have to be the suffer the consequences, which is like some
fear of failure.
Yeah, didn't you say you were going to be a bit like the whole Del Boy and Rodney thing of this time next year, Rodders, we're going to be millionaires? It's like people then, if you say I'm going to be a millionaire, and going back to your point of what if you don't get to Edinburgh, you get to Manchester, is what if you earn 800 grand in that year? Like you've still earned 800 grand out of a million, but you haven't achieved the thing you were maybe talking about a year before, but you're still a very much...
Exactly. I remember hearing Kerwin Ray on stage, he's a good guy to follow. I remember hearing him, and he said something like, my goal for the next 5 years is to make 100 million, right? To make 100 million. And he said, guess what though, guys? If I only make 80 million, I'm not going to be pissed off, am I? And so it was like, I'm going for it. It's the whole, if you aim for the moon and hit the stars, you've still done all right. So I think we wrap it up there, brother. I'm going to go and hit the supermarket to get a packet of potatoes.
Yeah.
The Extra 10% Podcast. Remember to like the John and Mark Facebook page on Facebook or visit johnandmark.co.uk for exclusive updates and content. Why not share this podcast with a friend and help them get paid tomorrow for what they do today?